I will call the Parks Committee to order at 8:30 on October 2nd, 3rd? 3rd. Roll call. I'm trying to pull up the agenda here. The TV station was way ahead of me. Okay. All right, that's it. Certification of open meeting law requirements have been met. The meeting was posted. Everybody got the email. Roll call of committee members. Nutter here.
Severson here.
Adams here.
Petrick here.
Becker here.
Okay, great. I would make a motion to approve the agenda.
All second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who was the first?
Adi was, I believe Adi, right?
What?
You approved the agenda.
How do you move Kevin second?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, I stayed right here.
Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes from our September meeting? Are there any adjustments, corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Aye.
I will allow 3 minutes for public comment. The phone number to call in is 715-538-1894. And if anybody at the table has any comments or notices or information they'd like to share, please feel free to do so at this time.
I got a question for Dave.
Yeah.
We talked about this last year at a meeting, I remember, and you said, I think you said it wasn't warranted, but do we have any of those brochures for Trempealeau County that you put out like at the waysides, or do we put them all over, or whereabouts do you put them?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any, so I was just wondering.
You've never seen them?
No.
Well, they're out at the rest areas, like the Tourist Information Center and Lacrosse, both the one downtown as well as the one coming in from Minnesota. And then I take so I replenish those periodically, like every couple of months. And then I take some over to Winona as well. And then when I do get out, I get out and put them around at, area businesses that have brochure racks and stuff.
That's a great question. I had some of those same questions
Right.
myself. Just, do we actually have a list of where we distribute
No.
those things?
No.
Probably should. I think that's a
Yeah.
great idea to know where they're all going, and then how updated are they?
It needs some updating, which is, as we talked about.
Like, what's the last year they were actually done?
I couldn't tell you.
These are probably five.
But somebody ordered who I
Over
can't,
5 years old?
I can't tell you when they were done, but somebody way ordered, and we still have 11 or 12,000 of those left.
I think about
I think-
a long time ago, like 5,000 or more were ordered.
I mean, I've
Or
reviewed,
even more
I've
than
reviewed
that.
I've reviewed the information. So I mean, it
20,000?
is older, but the information is largely up to date. And so,
I'd really love to see one, if we could, if you could
you
bring them.
probably can find one up by the county clerk's office, or I could grab you one before we leave.
Yeah, I think
today.
there's some in Paul's office,
But
in the brochure
well,
rack.
like I said, we've got probably, 20 cases still left down below the, so when I came on board, Lori, there was nobody, there was no distribution list of anything,
Understood.
where they were going and stuff. So, I mean, I'm not
But
making,
since
I'm
then,
not,
we would know where they've
Yeah.
been. And we should also look at that. If it's over 5 years old, I guess I would be concerned as how good the material actually is.
well,
And
I've reviewed it.
It's
and
not bad. I mean, it still
it's
talks
for the
about-
most part, people like the map, because there's a map on one side, and then there's information about, different businesses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or not businesses, attractions. So, that was one of the first things I looked at last year when I started, was
Yeah.
what we have. And decided that, even though it's not, I'm not excited about the design, but it serves the purpose that it's intended for, and it is something that's, easily distributable. the long-term future of it is still in flux, as to whether we do the visitor's guide, whether we do something similar to that. I've been talking with River Travel Media, who, we've had now for 2 or 3 years as a partner, helping us with PR. And they actually suggested that, Mike grabbed some. They actually suggested, because, and I like this idea, is they suggested that instead of doing, a full-blown visitor's guide, which
Thank you.
some people still like those, some people don't. They want to look everything up on their phone. They suggested that some clients that they're working with, they just put together something that's more map focused like that, one side of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is what we're using. And, like I said, primarily we're pushing those out through Explore La Crosse, because we're partners with them, and Visit Winona. We're partners. There's some up in Eau Claire. I was up to a meeting in Eau Claire a few months ago, and I restocked them up at the Chippewa Falls Visitor Center.
I think it'd be great if next meeting, if you could tell us exactly where we're distributing and how many pieces that we have left of this collateral material, because obviously we're spending time and money going to the state fair, the other areas, and if we're not giving out collateral
Yeah, well,
information.
we took them to State Fair.
Right, so how many did you give out?
600.
Okay, so it'd be great to have every place that you go,
Right.
if you could report on, yep, we gave out 600 at this place,
Sure.
we did, I
Sure.
think that would be great information for us to have.
Sure.
And then for all of us to be able to use our sort of resources to help
Yeah,
you get those
absolutely.
out. I mean, there's no reason that businesses wouldn't certainly take them, and, that we
Right.
can get them out a little bit better.
Yep.
So we should be able to get off, I mean, if all we've got is 5,000,
No, we have.
No,
we have
20,000 maybe.
We have, well,
How many?
I
Who
haven't
knows how
counted,
many?
I haven't counted in the last month, but it's 11 or 12,000.
well, someone
I
should
think
know. That should be us. We should know.
Yeah.
Well, I don't expect you to count each one to tell us.
Well, no.
exactly.
No, but you could
They're in
certainly give us
boxes,
a-
they're in boxes of
Yes.
550
Okay,
or
okay.
something
I
like
mean-
And
that.
there's
So all I
like-
could do is count boxes.
Yeah, there's like 5 to 10 boxes in the storage.
Yeah, there's, yeah.
Okay, so let's get them out of storage and get
try
them
and
out to where people
Well,
can
no.
see them.
We bring boxes up, 4 or 5 at a time. I'm not gonna put all those boxes in my room, in my office.
Well,
but,
you don't
yeah.
have to put them in your room.
Yeah.
I don't think putting them in your room is a great idea either, Dave. I think they need to get out in the public.
No, he just meant he's not going to bring all 12 boxes
Yeah,
into his office.
I know
He
where they're
brings them
at.
up
We've been
periodically.
bringing them.
Totally
you know,
understand.
Yeah, as I go and distribute them, I bring up
But
boxes at a
my
time.
point is, it doesn't have to be just you, Dave. There's a lot of us
Yeah.
here
We
can
that go
help. We can
places and
help.
can
You
help and
guys,
can do
I would
things.
more
and-
than welcome the help.
And let's get those 12
I
boxes
have put
out.
these in visitors' places when I was driving back and forth to
Yep.
Madison all the time.
Yep.
Yep.
So maybe at the next meeting, you could bring a box up and we'll all help
Sure.
ourselves
Yeah, 'cause
to
we
a
can
bunch and.
Get our county out
You
there.
have containers,
Yep.
like a cardboard, something to set these in, so you can display them like at a gas station here, rather than just laying them out. I'm just asking, I don't know.
We don't, I'm not aware that we have provided any brochure racks as part of this
Okay.
process.
I didn't know. That was-
So the places, no, it's a good question.
Because you need to put them down. I looked through this quickly, and it's a great map.
Yes,
And
and
there's
I
some
think
good
the map is a
information in
good, the map is a great
Yeah.
idea. That's super, but, they'll help you so much more if we can get them out for you.
Well, right.
And all
and
of
we-
us can
right, and
help
we
do
and
that.
we
And we should use our
just
talents.
just to
That's why
make
we're
it
here.
just to make it clear, since I've been here, I've been making a regular circuit of the visitor centers and stuff like that to make sure that they are restocked. I have not been keeping track. I can tell you that probably since I started last year, that we have whittled we probably have distributed at least 6,000, 6,000 to 7,000.
So I think my point
Mm-hmm.
is that we should use our skills and talents where we have
Mm-hmm.
them, and that all of us should together collectively do a better job in distribution. And we should know the numbers. We should know
So-
how many brochures do we have, where are they going?
Yep.
Agreed. Does it make sense to go to the state fair? If we're only giving out 600, is that enough? What number should it be? I think we need to make sure that we're doing a good job when we're distributing stuff.
The one thing I'd point out about State Fair, though, is that, that's just not putting something in somebody's hands or putting something in a goodie bag. It's actually making, personal contacts. And, I think that is really important to be able to tell the story. So,
It is important, but distribution is important too. You gotta be able to get that stuff out there.
Yeah.
That's,
So there's, besides the ones Mike brought down, there's probably a box sitting in my office. So anybody who wants to stop up to my office afterwards, I'll give you a bundle or two.
Okay. When Adi brought up the idea of putting something in places, made me think of the budget hearing is tomorrow for PTED, correct?
Correct.
And I don't see it on the agenda unless I missed it.
Well, it's not an agenda item because you,
No, but I just want people to be aware that they're slashing and burning budgets there. My committee, my board.
Mine too.
So
Pretty much everybody.
I believe that there's a position, the park position is on the slashing board for the
Better not be.
budget. So if anybody has any concerns or would like to have Reed's position maintained at the park, I suggest you go to the budget hearing and let your opinions be known if you're allowed to speak. And I doubt that there's any money in the budget to provide racks at businesses that we would provide.
Just one note that the Department of Land Management budget, the collective budget of all three budgets that we submitted is a reduction of 3.53% already.
Okay.
So we did our due diligence
Right.
and reduced our budget. And I don't think there's a department in the courthouse that has done that, something that equivalent. So we've been very, very responsible, and we're achieving our goals of what we want to accomplish.
But our park can't survive without a park coordinator and a park man, and the position that Reed was 50% of his time, but spent a lot of time.
75% of his time.
And I will fight to the death to keep that position.
That's good.
So,
When is the budget hearing tomorrow?
well, there's a big
10
schedule,
a.m.
10 a.m.
after you.
In here?
Yep. So that's my public comment.
Doreen wants to public comment.
Yes, go right ahead,
Hi,
Doreen.
this is Doreen Olson. My husband and I do go to a couple fishing shows in the winter months, so we have taken those brochures, not saying that a lot get picked up, but they do.
but it helps. Every
But it
little bit
helps.
yeah.
And then, speaking about the Explore Lacrosse, they do go to the Madison Fishing Expo. Those brochures are there, and I've thanked him and told him to please push it. He goes, I push, every community that contracts with them.
But
so.
that's my point. You have several businesses, you have 2 campground owners in the county that do 17 shows.
Right.
That, there's no reason that we can't all help with that. That's
Yeah,
the whole
go
point.
up and get a whole box.
Well.
Actually, my husband puts these out at the Strum Fishing Contest. I don't know how many get picked up. I can't tell you because I'm not a big ice fishing fan, but I do go there for coffee and donuts in the morning. Are there any other comments? We got no calls. Jean, do you have, well, Jean, you're up next. So I will close public comment at, I can't read the clock. I believe it's almost 8:45. So we'll move on to number 7, Great River Road update. And Jean, you might have to crank up your volume because you were speaking very softly earlier. Jean?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're still pretty soft,
Well,
so.
that's because that monitor.
Sorry, I'm in a building and at my appointment I'm doing the best I can. Then the volume's all the way up, so I'll.
Okay, I think we can hear you better now.
Okay.
Go
Well, I
for
moved
it.
a little bit, so hopefully it'll keep up. Okay. We just got back from the Mississippi River Parkway Commission annual meeting, which is the 10 states that border on the Mississippi River. That was in Elton, Illinois. We had some really good speakers. Our chairperson, Sherry Kwame, went to that on September 19th. Trempealeau Chamber of Commerce, Todd Odell, he's the new chamber president. He organized basically they're calling it the West Coast of Wisconsin, our areas to get together and try to partner, like with visitor guides, attending shows and things like that. And more information will come. And Dave was at that meeting. On September 28th, in La Crosse, there was a partnership signing for the Mississippi River Operation Pollination Partnership. People came from all over our state and surrounding states in regards to the pollinators in our area, and they're also working with farmers groups, which is great, with the Wisconsin Agritourism Association. Mayor Mitch Reynolds was just elected as the co-chair of the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiatives, which is huge because it's environmental. It covers rivers, trout, streams, lakes, anything and everything having to do with water, which is huge having someone, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but on our side, the state that is involved, because unfortunately we don't always get recognized like we should. The Fall Tourism Conference is coming up November 9th and 10th in Milwaukee. The State of American Traveler is the name of the event. They're going to be doing a destination analysis. One of the concerns is, yes, the money shows for economic impact the last couple years of, 2019, 2021, and 22. Everyone's concerned about how things are going to go for 2023 when those numbers come in June. We'll see how fall goes. Fall is opening up pretty good, traveling in the area. Obviously, we haven't hit peak yet, and hopefully with weather that we get, no more rain, that we can keep our leaves on our trees so we can keep pushing. People, obviously, pumpkin patches, orchards, fall camping, hiking, biking, walking on trails. We're also continuing to push to get out into our counties. Another thing is art and beautiful old churches, doing histories of our counties. So I'll be reaching out to the historical societies in the county to get more information from them. WeCOT is coming up, which is the Governor's Conference on Tourism in Lake Geneva, March 10th through the 12th. Our iHeart Radio ads that we will be running will be coming on to Sirius pretty soon. We're waiting to hear back on that grant that we wrote to the state of Wisconsin, which hopefully gets approved to go onto the Federal Highway Administration in Washington to get some money to continue to promote the Wisconsin Great River Road. And of course, Trempealeau County is part of that. Apple Affairs coming up this Saturday. Dave, I haven't looked yet. Are you doing the fall color report? Did you get information from our last meeting? Did you talk to Linda?
Linda,
Mossman.
oh, I have not talked to Linda Mossman. I'll give her a call.
Okay. We're hoping to have some money to go to the Chicago Travel Adventure Show, which is January 13th and 14th, 2024. It will promote all of our 8 counties. And this might be an area, Dave, to assist with some funding if you have a little bit to put in, as well as get some of those maps around. And just so everybody knows, when Olin Femright was working or being the person in charge of the motor coaches, he ordered all of those maps because it was the Tourism Council, biking, and motor coach. So he's the one that ordered those. And those, Lori, are probably maybe 15 years old. Unless
No, they're
there's
not
ones
that
that
old.
were
No,
printed that I'm not aware
not
of.
this batch. There's an
Yeah.
older batch.
Yeah, and Ann Hempel did the map that's in this current brochure. I think, and Olin just left the county board like maybe 4 years ago. 5.
So he,
Yeah, 6.
I'll have to call Paul and find out where he got that money from. Maybe he took it out of his $2,500 that they used to split up between all of us. Okay, so for that show, that reaches anywhere between 25,000 and 30,000 visitors over the 2 days. and of course pushing Facebook posts big time and website. Is there a way, and I understand it's a government website, is there a way that we can make tourism and economic development a bigger, I don't know, a spotlight on the face of the government website or not?
No, not really.
Well, here, Dave and I have talked about this extensively. Both
Yeah.
I had the same kind of issue when I worked up in Burnett County. Is on a county site is a very big site to begin with when you're talking about county government services, and then you add economic development and tourism, and it does get lost. We had talked about talked with IT regarding getting a separate web address that would redirect it. So it would be a better brand. Instead of County Trempealeau, it'd be like Visit Trempealeau or Trempealeau Fun or something. I forget what Dave's idea was, but we didn't get that idea was not well received by IT. Another option we could.
Mike, do you think that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Mike, go ahead.
Lori, you had a question.
Yeah, I guess I did. What does that mean wasn't well received?
I'll take that. So, with all due respect to our IT people, they operate by what they think are a certain set of rules and standards about, how things should work, right? So, for instance, I think my idea was, can we look to see, can we register Traverse TC for Trempealeau County, traversetc.com. Because .com is what people are used to. There are .orgs, .govs, whatever. And IT took a look, and I don't know. There was reasons why they said they couldn't do Traverse, whatever. And the bottom line was we could do it, but we have to jump through some hoops and stuff. And so it's not out of the question. But what that is that's just registering a new domain name that would point people back to where we are now. But it would still be an improvement because, like, if I'm on radio or telling somebody, trying to tell somebody, where they can go to find us on the web, it's a little tough.
Yeah.
First off, you have to know how to spell Trempealeau. And let's face it, that's one of our challenges.
And then, like you said, I like that where that web would link it back to your division or whatever.
Yeah, but I'm looking right now at, I had up the homepage for Trempealeau County, and we're not in as bad a position as some places where it's really buried. There are 6 major links at the top of the page: home, government, departments, community, and tourism. So it's there. If you click on tourism, then you get, to our page. And within the existing content management system, or CMS, that the county has for the website, there's a lot, we're pretty much limited to what you see. What you see is about all we can do. We can do some things with more more pictures and stuff, but it's kind of like you got to fit it into a box that the CMS provides.
To me, when I look at, the Trempealeau County website looks like a government website. It doesn't look,
Right.
it's not tourism. And to me, I would say there's a pretty good case to have a separate site even. But of course,
and
we
that's
have our
the
own
reason
security
I brought it
issues
up.
and security issues and
That's the reason I brought it
financing
up.
and all that
Mike,
kind of stuff.
I'm wondering, can we, Mike, can we put together a couple of us, like Lori, if she wouldn't mind if I could use her name, if the two of us could come up with some ideas that we'd like, write them down, submit them to you and Dave to review, and then write something up and get it on our PTED, maybe December agenda, then we could do a vote and whatever that would go from the council and meet with IT that we could do something. We really need to get tourism out there, and I completely understand the government situation, but you are correct. It's a government page. And if we're going to have this money and we're doing the things we need to do, we need to get Trempealeau County out there for the hiking and biking and camping for the tourism and economic development. We got to get people in those businesses, buying gas, eating. So if we could work on something like that, I think it would be a good idea, and the PTED committee should support that.
If we have money.
Well, some of the things
Well,
we can
and-
look at right away, I think, like, what are our website hits? Let's get some info so we can actually see what we're looking at. We must have Mike hooked up Google Analytics or something like that, I would think. And maybe we could look at what does it cost to do a separate site? Because obviously the hosting isn't much, but I don't know what kind of county security stuff that you might have to go through. But if we could get that information back, I think that would be good to report on some more numbers. Where are we actually on this?
For me, I think
it's important
more people are
that-
inclined to look at our social media sites than the county webpage.
They look at both, and,
Okay.
last year, we did a pretty extensive presentation to the county board, or to this committee at the end of the year on, website hits, social media hits, all of that stuff. And I expect we'll have that again from River Travel Media again this year. Our campaigns have not ended. There was some problems with something the county did differently on the back end of the website, and Google Analytics was not running for a while because I requested some data from IT recently. Now that's fixed. They've got the new plugin or whatever. But yeah, all of that information's available, and happy to share that.
Yeah, they were here at our meeting
They did.
and did a great job talking about
Yeah.
exactly to
Yeah. I
the
think that was in November,
how
December.
many hits we had on Instagram and Facebook and
Yeah.
all of our
I think
websites.
that to Jean and Lori's point, though, I don't think that we're looking at what has been happening, but rather expanding
Yes,
on
exactly,
it.
yes.
And I don't think we're meaning any negativity about what's been happening.
at all.
It's just
Yeah.
that how can we help and what can we
it's-
bring to the
it's-
table?
it's not taken that way either. I mean, the more money and support we can get, the better. I mean, frankly, we've been doing stuff kind of with hands tied behind our back
Right.
in the past.
So then it seems reasonable to me to put it on the agenda for December to talk more about what opportunities there are with regard to our website, and have an IT representative who could speak to that.
Because we can't move forward on this unless we have somebody from IT to talk
Right.
about how feasible it is to do actually.
Yes, and how much work would it mean for
how
them?
much money
and-
will it cost, The budget will
Well,
be done by December, so.
To be clear, if we're going to do a separate website, separate from the county, our IT department's not going to design it.
Okay.
That's not, I mean,
Right.
that's
Oh, okay.
not where they don't have web designers. That's why we're using a content management system. So we're gonna have to hire an outsider. And this is a conversation I've had with River Travel Media,
Can they
with
do a
Amy and
website?
Brent. They can do a website, but, then there's a question of cost.
Okay.
And there's multiple providers out
Yeah,
there as well.
and there's other providers that we would look at as well. So
like
this is
them.
something that,
I like them. They're so positive and.
this
I-
is some,
We like
it's
we
a
like
good
to give you guys
conversation for us to
choices.
have.
Choices are
And
good.
it's been on the radar
Tight
screen.
budgets, we gotta have
Yeah.
choices.
Well, I harp on this constantly, but their ARPA
Quiz.
funds can be used for tourism. So we still have 1.2 million. Oh, I'm sorry. But we could dip into that to create a webpage.
Executive finance wants to use that for the justice
Yeah,
center.
well.
Good luck.
I was
Good
gonna
luck.
say, I think
what I
that
will
money's
do-
gone.
Gina's, I think.
Jean, speak up.
What I will do when I get home, I will put together some thoughts. I'd like it if the committee members would put some thoughts and ideas and suggestions together on a sheet, and if we can maybe email them to Amy, I'll call her, or Dave, and we can figure something out get a presentation and the things that I want. It's not necessarily even a website. If we could somehow just direct it someplace different, but we need to push tourism and economic development. Dave, in regards to the
Using her phone, so that's the problem.
sweepstakes and whatever, how many entries did we have that ended on September 29th?
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah, I haven't got the final numbers from Amy and Brent, so I'll have to provide you with an update on that next month. I haven't seen the final numbers.
And then, Mike, you said that, there was issues with the upcoming budget and whatever or I guess you and Jeannie said that with the possibility of cutting the position that Reed held. Now, remind me, is that that position then would be the position that would be answering to Dave during marketing and the park as well? I don't have my notes with me.
Yes,
I believe that's what it's on.
it's
Okay,
Reed's
so then-
old, it's
then if that
Reed's
person-
old position.
Okay. But the position that we wanted, that people just applied for, that would be answering to Dave, that position is still not on the block to get chopped? Or
There's
it
been
is?
requests from certain elected officials to potentially eliminate that position.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank
And
you.
I'm not one of
That's
them.
all I got.
Who's gonna take care of it?
Okay.
No, I mean, I'm not one who's asking that position be eliminated.
Right, but I'm just saying, what are they
Yeah,
saying?
what's the-
Who's gonna take
They don't
the
have Dave can do it all. Dave can manage the park.
So John Osson did call me, and we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he asked if, he said, he was thinking about that position, and, if we eliminated that, would I be able to do that in addition to my job? And I very frankly told John that I did not think that was in the cards. The Parks and Recreation position requires, pretty much full-time attention, because it's not just stuff out at the parks, it's snowmobile trails, it's, any myriad number of things. And, since Reed's been gone, since the beginning of September, I've been having to, handle everything that would have come across his plate. And I'm managing it for now, but this isn't even the busy time of the year. This is the slow time of the year. So it is absolutely imperative that we fill that position. And it's not just about what are we doing today at the park, but there was this whole vision with the reorganization that this department, or that this committee approved, and that personnel bargaining approved, that, we wanted to expand what we did with Parks and Recreation and not just have our park system consist of one park, but rather, have some activity programming that could be done at the park, at Petrick Park, but also elsewhere in the county. So, I mean, I get, I get the desire and the need of the board to, be fiscally prudent and responsible. But, like I said, Mike, and now I'm on my soapbox, I'm sorry. But Mike said, we have a 3.5% cut budget that we've already put in. And I think this position, as well as the conservation position, are pretty critical. We need to fill them.
And there's so much more that, like, I was just talking to our veteran service officer this morning before this meeting, and there was a Veterans Day at the park in Strum, and we talked about, wouldn't it be great if we could do a Veterans Weekend at Petrick Park? There's, their budget got cut too. I mean, how can we cut services to veterans? And I'm on my soapbox, but I mean, there is a million things we can do in that park. That position is already there, and I told John, if you're gonna cut a FTE from parks, then you need to cut FTEs from every department and not just start with us, so.
I think one of the key
hopefully that
components.
won't. Go ahead, Dawn,
Jean.
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
It's hard when you're,
I just think that one of the key components that it's really hard to recognize, because it's hard to put dollars to it, is the importance of the parks and what this group and employees are doing to promote Trempealeau County, which is driving our sales tax and contributing to our bottom dollar. But but I get it, because we have upfront costs. And so the things that we're doing are bringing in dollars that are hard to recognize as being driven through the work that we're doing. but two, they're coming up on the backside of an upfront cost. So I guess through all of that, I understand the need to be fiscally responsible, but it's also important to look at the ramifications for what those changes might mean in other aspects.
Indeed.
Well, in a post-COVID world, or during COVID, outdoor activities skyrocketed. It's what really moved the tax bracket, whatever, sales tax increase
Right.
in many counties where people were outside, and it hasn't stopped.
And Dave, how much now, in your presentation a month ago or so, how much sales tax money was
Economic impact.
directly attributed to
Yeah,
tourism?
so based on the economic impact, identified by the Department of Tourism related to visitors spending in Trempealeau County, that generated $335,000 of the $2.8 million in county sales tax. So that's $335,000 that comes into Trempealeau County to the county of Trempealeau as sales tax revenue, local sales tax, the 0.5%, directly tied back to visitor spending. So, I think that's really important. And, to get back to this very important question of like whether that Parks and Rec position should be cut. I mean, I don't even think that should be a question, but I will tell you this. As I said, I've been doing a lot of park stuff. If that has to be done permanently, then it is going to end up being at the expense of what I can do with tourism and with economic development. There's only so many hours in a day, and even if there was more money tied to the position, I don't really care about money. I care about having a job that's manageable and that we can be effective with. And I can be effective in providing guidance and oversight and direction, to somebody hired into that Parks and Rec position, and work with them to expand the impact of our programming. But I can't do that job in addition to the job that I was originally hired for.
Aren't we still having interviews even?
Yeah.
Okay. I say just move ahead.
That's what we're doing.
You have to tell executive finance that they might say.
I don't care.
Yeah.
We're there tomorrow morning, so.
I'll be there.
I think the same thing. I mean, you can say let Dave do it. It's easy to sit there and say, but then you don't get a quality job out of tourism or out of the parks.
Right.
He gives you as much effort as you can, Dave, and I think you do a good job, great job. But if you start stretching people too thin, then you don't get any quality out of them, and you can't blame them because they just got too many irons in the fire.
And then not to necessarily speak for Dave, but what I can see happening is dissatisfaction in the job,
Right.
which could
And I need to
potentially
bring us back to where we should be, which is the Great River Road update from Jean.
I'm done.
And it's not unlike me to go off the rails, so I'm very sorry.
I'm done.
Jean, do you have more to talk about with the Great River Road?
Nope, I'm done.
Okay.
Jean, one thing I'd like to tell you is that 13th and 14th in January, touch base with me,
Yeah.
will ya? And I'll see if I can find you some funds for that. I have an idea.
Okay, great. Thank
I
you.
love ideas.
Sure you do.
Okay, I do. Is there anything else on the Great River Road? Any questions for Jean?
No,
Anything?
ma'am, I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Jean. Now I'm going to throw it back to you, Dave. Economic
Great.
Development Tourism Manager Report.
All right, well, I'll try and keep it brief since I've already used my time for this morning.
That's all right. It was my fault.
I did attend the Wisconsin Economic Development Association Conference in Wausau this past weekend. Last week, Wednesday through Friday. They do 2 conferences per year. I have found them to be immensely valuable, a lot of good connections, a lot of good ideas on things happening elsewhere. Did take some brochures with me, probably about 100, left them
Great.
on the tables at the conference.
Good job.
I did, as Jeannie mentioned, go to this Trempealeau tourism meeting. You were there too, Lori. I thought that was a good event that they put on. Candidly, I will say that I felt a little bit slighted that, they didn't include any mention of Trempealeau County and what we've done with tourism
Oh, but they
and
didn't
the
mention any
success.
county.
No, I know.
Yeah, no,
but
I don't,
you-
I don't think
Yeah,
we should feel
anyways.
slighted about that.
Anyways, I do have tentative plans to meet with the Trempealeau Chamber, hopefully this month or November. I've been trying to schedule it for a while, and I think it's just important that we all kind of get on the same page and know what we're doing and be working together. Because the pitch I made to a couple of their board members I talked to that night was that, we really are, sort of doing the umbrella marketing for Trempealeau County. And then if communities can, highlight their own specific things or let us know how they want to work with us to do that. And so, for instance, in Trempealeau, Village of Trempealeau, they have a room tax, and that generates, I can't remember the amount, but one of their board members talked to me and said that, Explore La Crosse was trying to convince them to send $6,000 or $7,000 a year in room tax to Explore La Crosse to let them promote Trempealeau. And I said, well, that's one idea, or you could consider how you could work with us, in tandem to do that.
That's the key right there, though, Dave, is
yeah.
to get all those little towns working together.
Correct.
It should be under us.
Correct.
That is the key.
It should be. There's just been
And
a
it's
lot
not
of.
just your job. We can all help with that.
And there's a county board member that's also a Trumbull City board member.
Yep.
So we can use her too.
Yep, and I talked to Bridget about that a little bit. So anyway, and then the fall tourism campaign that we're doing with River Travel Media, I think has been going well. They've been helping push out some more, more social stuff. We've got our full page ad in the on Wisconsin Outdoors that was distributed over 100,000 copies that distributed statewide. Through the Quick Trips and the newspapers in the Northwest Chicago suburbs and stuff. So yeah, just been busy in the met with a representative of a banking group that's got some branches in Trempealeau County a couple of weeks ago, and I don't want to name the name of the banking group at this point, but looking good for doing in partnership with them a sort of business pitch contest for business startups or small businesses looking to expand, where the bank would provide up to $15,000 per year to invest in that. And then just to give you a sense of some of the things that are more long game initiatives they're working on. One of the first things I did when I, started going out and visiting with businesses, including banks, was talk to banks specifically about geez, we really don't have a local revolving loan fund that we could, make loans to small businesses. We've got the one through Mississippi River Regional Planning. It'd be nice if we had one that we locally controlled. And so I've been planting the seed with some of the financial institutions about maybe, pitching in some money to help capitalize one, because we could get matching funds from different sources. So this particular banking group said, we've talked that over, and, we'd really be interested in participating in something like that. So the next step in that is I'm hoping in the next, few months to pull together a group, a meeting of local lenders and make that pitch collectively to all of them and see, if we can get some commitments. And I don't want to pick out numbers, but, if we could come up with 250,000 or even 100,000 and get some match on that, now all of a sudden you've got a couple $100,000 that you could loan out and reloan and stuff. And I have experience with running revolving loan funds, and it would be great to have that tool at our disposal. So that's it for economic development and tourism at this point.
Okay, any questions for Dave?
I do. The Facebook and the social media stuff that we do, do people supply you with things, events, like the Apple Affair, like that, that's just one thing, but, your fishing tournament,
Yeah,
do they supply you with stuff for that, Dave?
I get stuff sometimes, and then we'll share that. But yes, to answer your question, Lori, I think it's like, we need to work better with the chambers and stuff like that. And as I've met with them, I've said, hey, if you got something you want to highlight, let us know.
Send
about
it to me.
And I think people.
Is that whole social media platform yours? I mean, you have to do all of that?
Well,
Is that,
well,
is there
it's
anybody else that's?
No,
on that?
River Travel Media has access to
Okay.
our Facebook
Right.
and Instagram. And so they can post stuff. And when I do have them, on retainer, so to speak, they do a really good job of, getting on there, a couple times a week, 3 times a week. Is that stuff we can do? Yes, but, they just, they're experts in pushing that out and like what the best time is to push that stuff out and whatever. But we have nobody, I think.
Apple Affair is already advertised on the Facebook page.
Yeah, I think we have,
There's a lot of stuff
I
on
can't
here,
remember who
actually.
else I have authorized from but nobody in land management is gonna update, that Facebook page.
That's my question.
Yeah.
Do we have somebody internally that is actually working on that? Because,
Besides me, no.
Eckers is on here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on here.
Yeah, I mean, besides me, there's not. And
that was my question to you at all.
However, with this Parks and Rec position, part of that Parks and Rec coordinator position, a smaller portion of that was to, assist with social media for tourism promotion. And that's not, that shouldn't be overlooked, because that
Right.
would really be important, even if it's somebody, that could put 5 hours a week into that.
Right.
I think one of the things that is really important that we take a look at for marketing in general, do we really have a strategic plan? Do you have all the resources that you need that you can use from here? I mean, if you just look around the room, you got some pretty good contacts
no,
and
And I
good
know some
sources.
tourism people in Winona I can help them
Yeah.
out.
So I think everybody knows a couple people.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that we get a copy of if there is a strategic plan or a marketing plan or whatever it is that you're using for guidance. That would help me understand a little bit better. Of,
We need to create one.
Okay.
Because it's, quite honestly, it's kind of, not making it up as we go along, but, making decisions on an individual case basis about what, like for instance, the On Wisconsin Outdoors ad that we did. My decision was, we really haven't done much with promoting in the fall. And
Yep.
that's like, a time when occupancy at hotels and your campgrounds are lower, and it's a great time to try to attract people.
Sure.
And so decided to spend the money on that. We'll see how we can measure the results if we can.
The
But
county board did a strategic plan, I don't know, 9 years ago, and it's sitting on a shelf somewhere. But one of the number one things was outdoor activities and tourism.
Right.
To increase it.
I think I've talked to you about this, Lori. What I would like to do this winter, when things slow down a little bit, is to pull together a tourism summit, pull together all
Oh, that'd be
the
fun.
tourism-related players, see if we can get, Wisconsin Department of Tourism, Andy Nussbaum to come in and help facilitate, and just, do some asset mapping of what do we have.
What do we have?
Yes, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And that's what we need to have
Yep.
in place.
It
And,
does.
and there's no, I would do that sooner rather than later, because if you don't have that plan, how are
Agreed.
you going to be able to defend it if you don't have the plan? So when you're trying to defend a position, you've got to have numbers that go along with it. You have to have, this is the plan, this is where we're going, this is why you should support
We
this.
have numbers, and don't we have some of that data?
You gotta sell it to the executive finance committee.
And if we do, great, let's see it.
And then I just had a question too. You may have touched on this and I apologize, but I didn't pick it out. Economic development is another part of the work that this group does, but I don't feel like it's been a big focus for this group. So, and then that's okay. It's hard to focus on everything, but it just leaves me wondering what, if anything, we should be doing in that realm. Having gone recently to the conferences in Wisconsin Dells where they talked about the housing shortages and childcare issues and a bunch of other things that make moving to the county difficult as well. So I'm just wondering, or laying out on the table, is that an agenda item where we can speak more to what what we're doing from an economic growth perspective.
I think we should make it
Sure.
an agenda item, for sure.
And,
Sure.
and Dave is working on broadband, which is one of those key
Yep.
items.
Yep.
And,
And your banking thing you just brought up should be,
I know there's
so we
work
can-
going on. I just,
Right, but
I'm not
it's-
sure, like, I would love to see it kind of put
on the
together.
agenda.
and
Yeah.
if that position is eliminated, it just makes it that much harder to.
Right.
Right, and one of the things I didn't mention, it was a significant oversight in the economic development report, is I am having a meeting next month with City of Arcadia Economic Development Committee, just talk about, some of their needs. But we also are having a meeting the next day with representatives from Wisconsin Housing Economic Development, WHEDA, WHEDA, and then WEDC is coming up too, and we're meeting with the mayor and some other key people to talk about housing in Arcadia specifically. And I think that's really good because, there's the shortage there is probably the most acute, especially tying back to like vacant positions at Ashley. And, we can't attract workers to Trempealeau County, to fill jobs if there's no places for people to live. And that's a state, every single, at this conference.
issue.
I just went to, everybody's facing workforce challenges, housing challenges, childcare challenges.
For sure.
And it's not, I am working on those. I did participate in a group last year up in Osseo that was putting together a childcare initiative. They ended up, submitting, I think, for a grant, and I don't know that they've heard on the grant yet, doing the housing work. And, I welcome, the opportunity to like talk about this stuff, in more detail. There's, since I've started, I've been doing a lot of business visits, and they're really part of a, broader, sort of discipline within the field of, business, they're called business retention and expansion visits. And it's going out and meeting with businesses, large and small, to talk about, what is the state of your business? What do you need to stay and thrive here? And I've been doing those visits alone. A lot of communities, they will go out in teams and do that. So that's the kind of thing, for instance, we probably should talk about in November, December sometime. And maybe there's a way that we could enlist members of this committee to go out and help with those, because it's
Absolutely.
always better to have a second set of ears in those meetings. The meetings I've had largely have been more introductory meetings at this point. There's some businesses that are larger, and I'm not going to name names, that I've spent more time trying to kind of drill down and get at some of those issues and stuff. And we can all guess which ones are the sizable employers that really we need to pay attention to and make sure that we're not ignoring some obvious things we can help with.
I can't recall if it was last fall, spring, when you had that economic sort of summit in Arcadia.
Oh yeah, we had the training right
That was
last
a
October.
continuation of that with some of those same people. I
Right.
think would be great. I learned so much.
Right.
So can
was
we
great.
actually put a plan together to do that summit now, so that we
The
can kind
tourism
of?
summit?
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'll bring something back next month.
that would be great. I think
And that
that
economic-
would be great.
Have a 0.20 of that training. The women were from WHEDA, right? They were awesome.
Dave, you said you're meeting with WHEDA next week?
It's a different WHEDA. Yeah, so actually later this month, it's already October, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the,
It's flying by.
yeah, I know, it was September when we went to the conference last week. Yeah, I've got a meeting in Arcadia, and Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority and WEDC, Wisconsin Economic Development Corp, are going to be there. And we're going to talk about, with the city of Arcadia, looking at that housing need. It may end up being a specific housing study for the city of Arcadia, and especially if they're willing to put some money into doing a housing study to really identify that. We might be able to find some money through WEDC or WIDA to assist with that.
I think, but that's a problem that every city's got in this county.
They do. Yep.
And even people, we don't, some of the towns don't have all the manufacturing, but a lot of people don't like to live where they work.
Right.
So every town, so it's too bad that all the mayors or council members or whatever from all the cities couldn't go there and just just listen and find out what is out there, because a lot of us don't know, and it could benefit all the communities.
Adi, if you'd like, I can check with the folks in Arcadia that we're meeting with and see, if you'd like to tag along and just sit in on the meeting.
If you open it up to anybody, I mean, to one person from every town, just so that you can get that information, because it's vital information, and Arcadia needs it, but so does all the other.
When as you well know, when I went out and met with the villages and cities last year and the towns, I said, I'm here to help. Just give me a call or email me, reach out. And so, City of Independence, City of Osseo, whoever wants some assistance, on housing issues or whatever, it's like I'm a phone call away.
Western Dairyland is a good partner because they're dealing with these same issues. They have a whole housing
The conference that I
and
went to
childcare.
At the convention was really targeted on housing for more, not the low-income housing and not the housing that's priced out of everybody's range, but more the housing need is, at least according to that conference, was more for your average income family, where there's a significant shortage of that type of housing to bring in people to live in the community from that
Or
perspective.
single adults who have a job and have no place to live except their parents' basement, so they're not moving back to Trempealeau County after they get a job.
I think we're throwing a lot of things at you, like
Yeah.
to
That
do
could
a lot
be
of stuff.
That
but
could be on
This
the
is
agenda, because
the-
again, we're way off track here.
We are.
That could be an agenda item next
I'm
month.
really excited that you all are recognizing this stuff, because this is my world on a daily basis. And
Right.
I don't talk about all the details, but housing is
Housing and childcare are gonna kill
housing and
us.
childcare and the different approaches. I mean, we just over the, at this last conference, heard about different housing projects in different communities, and,
there's a lot of really
they
creative
come
things
together.
that some counties have been doing with that.
Right.
So I'd really love an opportunity to explore some of that more,
Yep.
and I don't know if that's just through an agenda item or an additional meeting or how that really happens, but really a targeted discussion to focus on some of these key issues, not at this full committee meeting, because here we're getting summaries, but
Right.
where we can really get into the issue.
But I
Yeah.
think maybe that's a great option to do that. Split that up just a bit and, see if we can get some folks helping you a little bit more with the tourism piece of it, helping you a little bit more with economic development, and kind of pulling that together so that it's a little bit of a more manageable job, especially now when you're doing so much.
We need to hire more people. And the daycare issue is not just necessarily there aren't any daycares. There's a huge shortage of daycare teachers.
Right. Yep.
That's why Western Dairyland has they've had to cut back because they don't have staff to staff their daycares.
Okay, I think we've chatted about a lot
Okay,
of things.
yeah, so Dave-
Can we come to the conclusion that Dave is going to go ahead and plan to put a tourism summit together, get us some information for the next meeting, and to Dawn's point, that he can bring back something on the economic development and maybe what a go-forward plan might look like for that?
In your spare time, work on this.
What's two things?
I think we'll wait until December to put this on the agenda because we need to get the position hired so that you are not dividing
slap
yourself
it.
in half or quarters.
Think positive.
I think I don't want to overwhelm Dave either, but I don't know that it would be that difficult to put it on an agenda just to have
Absolutely.
No, to
a
continue the
conversation
discussion.
surrounding.
Yeah, but I don't expect you to have a plan or the
Right,
summit
right.
planned by
We can
November
put whatever
1st.
on the agenda whenever you want, and I would be prepared to
It
discuss.
can make, just,
I'm not, listen, I can't do two jobs indefinitely, but I'm not overwhelmed.
but you
know.
could be.
Yeah.
In the summer time.
Because might start snowing soon, and then you'll have to deal with snowmobile stuff.
We're already dealing with
I know, that's a year-round thing.
I think the thing is, Jeannie, we had 2 people that have just asked to have these 2 items on the agenda for
Sure.
next time. So I don't think there's any sense of waiting until December.
I mean, I think
we
a
should have it in
tourism
November.
summit in January and an economic 0.20 of what we did in Arcadia in February would be great. That seems doable. January, get ready for tourism.
Sure.
Okay. Anything more before we move on? Who's got number 9, camper
That's
cabins?
me.
I guess you're just like
That's
the
the
whole
parks
rest.
guy.
You're
I
the
know.
whole rest of
I'm
the
missing
agenda.
Reed already. Yeah, Reed kind of took some of the time up. I just put this on the agenda. I really didn't prepare anything in advance, but I did do a little bit of poking around within the last couple weeks to see if such a thing existed, and it apparently does, where we could basically purchase some pre-made camper cabins and just have them delivered to the park and set up that as an option. As you'll find out in the next agenda item, we've got more potential projects out at the park than we have reserve funds to pay for them. So, but it's just another item out there. I think, back in the master plan, it was identified that it might be nice to have a couple camper cabins or have camper cabins. And my thought was that if there was a way that we could, and my original thought was if we could just have somebody, who had those basically drop a couple, and we rent them for the year, instead of buying one. It's kind of a try before you buy type thing. But anyways, I thought I would throw that out there just for a discussion
Good idea.
item, see if people have any ideas about that.
Well,
Yay,
it'd be great
nay.
if you could poll, and you can get this easily from the reservation system. Just let us know how many site nights that we have on the sites that we currently have there. That'd be great data for
Yep.
us to use. And
I'm still working
Make
through
decisions
figuring
on
a camp spot out, and it looks like it's got the ability to run a bunch of different reports.
It does.
And I
It's-
haven't,
yeah.
I just haven't.
Yep,
Amy's been actually doing some work on that too, with learning
sure.
about camp spot and some
Sure.
other things.
Yeah, worst case scenario, you can call them and say, hey, I just need this report,
Right.
and they can pull it off.
That was brought up about 10 years ago to put some cabins
Yep.
out there. Matter of fact, that's why that concrete slab is out there.
Got that
Yeah.
far up.
And
that.
to put one on.
So you
But I
can
mean,
put one
for
on
the
that
simple
slab.
reason you have, say, a family get-together, grandma and grandpa want to come, they're not going to sleep in a tent.
So given the status of our park reserve funds, I don't know that we, going out and buying a cabin or two might not be in the realm, but I will do some more exploring and see if there's some way
Rent a
that
cabin?
maybe we could just,
That'd be interesting. I've not heard of that, so that would be
Yeah,
very
if we- see if
interesting.
we
I
could
don't know that
maybe-
anybody would do that.
if we could, I think that would be ideal. And
It'd
obviously,
have to be the private sector that would fund them. I can't imagine that maybe, I could be wrong, but we've not heard of it anywhere that they would rent, because we've asked those questions.
Oh,
You can
sure.
hardly get the RV companies to rent you an RV.
right.
you know,
But
to
anyways,
stay in.
we'll
So-
check into it. One side I saw, when we're looking at, buying them, you can get them from like, $12,000 to $15,000 up to like 20,000 and stuff. But, as Mike pointed out, and this is, we would have to make sure something like that was, built to the, uniform dwelling code and all of that stuff. So, but it's something that was in the park master plan that we really haven't put into, priority projects, and I'm not even sure if we have Dawn tried to get us to prioritize projects earlier this year.
Tried.
I think we do, sort of.
They're all priority
Reed-
1A
they're all-
though.
Yeah, Reed worked on that, getting things, what was
Yeah.
most critical for the park's success.
So anyways, that, like I said, discussion only, we'll bring that back, as I gather some ideas.
What, I think I just heard you say that we would have to have the cabins up to the uniform dwelling code.
That's not, yeah, you.
I
you
don't
would
think
need to-
that's-
You would need to have them up, to the camper code.
ADA,
And
I
it
would
would
imagine.
fall in the campground code.
Yeah, there's a
Yes.
specific code for camper cabins.
Very specific, yeah.
It'd have to be ADA.
Do you,
Everything has to be ADA.
Do you think there's any opportunity? I'm throwing this out there kind of as a wild pitch here. You know, just try me out.
No wild pitches.
Do you think there's any opportunity that any of the woodworking classes in any of the schools would be interested in
Strum
trying
might.
to do
It's-
something
that's-
like
that's
that?
a possibility.
And Mike and I have talked about that.
Leave a strum.
There's, yeah, there's also up in Osseo, in the Osseo Fairchild School
I
District.
believe
they
I
have
saw that in Galesville, they had made a mini home.
They do that
Yeah.
every year, I believe.
Well, what's really
Wow,
cool is,
that's-
well, there's some issues with that. If we could get, and they've done this in other
can reach out
counties,
to some
but if
school
we
boards.
can get the school to build them to the campground code, then you could put them in any campground and it's fine.
And
The ones that you see there are not built to.
Well, we would have to ensure that.
But it's awesome. It's an awesome program. I've seen it work at different, the kids get a great experience. They get an opportunity to see what they've drawn on paper and put it together. They have 3 or 4 different departments that work together on them. It's an amazing idea.
Through
Dawn,
Fresh
and it
Start at
works.
Head Start or Wisconsin or Western Dairyland, kids built a house that people moved
Right.
into. It's an
No, the
amazing
school,
program.
the school angle is good. We've talked about that, Mike and I have. And
That's a great idea.
part of the school angle, of course, is, we know that, it gets used for 6th grade campouts and stuff. And I remember when I went to this, to school camp when I was in middle school, we actually had cabins, like sort of, bunkhouse type thing and stuff. So, if we were to have a couple and then add over, and get to a certain number, school groups could use those, and then, the other months of the year could be for the public. And that we'd get good money for that come Ashley time.
Okay.
So we'll bring
Sounds
it
like
back.
a good plan.
I can reach out to some school boards so I can put a buzz in their ear.
Let's hold on that, and let's see if we can get together a proposal, and then, see which ones we might want to reach out to.
You have number 10 too, I think, or maybe Mike has this. Review of status of park reserve funds.
Mike can take it.
I will hand out these are sheets here.
Thank you.
This is one of the, we really wanted to kind of give you an update. One of the things, we've added additional internal tracking, financial tracking. Amy's been a great help since she's come on, and we've added these additional kind of tracking mechanisms for our various accounts. And so this is essentially a summary of our reserve account. So at the top line, you'll see that's our current balance from 2022. And then, of course, some of that money is allocated to donations. So we have agreements tied to those donations. So that money can't really be allocated elsewhere. We have to follow that agreement. We have our master plan contract with SRF. That's $60,000. So that's allocated to this reserve account. So even though we haven't spent anything, that we have a financial obligation in that amount. We have the canoe kayak launch match, and then of course with the land donation, the 5.5 acres, we have to do some kind of development there. So since we didn't get the recreation pond grant, kind of the next thing up probably is the playground part. Of course, with working with the engineering consultant, part of that is part of that project is the playground in conjunction with the rec pond. So we have money identified there for playground equipment and grading. And just so you understand, This playground equipment is unique. It isn't cheap, and $20,000 for one piece is pretty normal. And you can spend more. So that $60,000 for playground equipment
Looks like a
might even be low.
You think that's a bargain nowadays?
I think that number's probably, we have a very conservative number there. We could spend even more.
Oh, boy.
So what we kind of just put down there is a placeholder, because part of this is we have to let this project with the engineer play out and kind of work through that, implementing the vision there. But the whole idea here is we wanted to kind of get that.
Mike, on that one, just a quick insert here. If you check with Minnesota Playground Equipment, they have a grant that they do, like they match up to half of the equipment stuff with whatever you purchase. If it's got to be some things that are like sensory oriented and good for children with autism or those types of things,
Right.
they have some different requirements, but it's an option to get twice as much for that
Right.
same amount of money. So if you're going to buy something anyway, that might be a real good, and I think that several of those playground companies do that.
Right.
You just have to ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll look into that.
There's a whole bunch of grants also available through Wisconsin for playground.
Right.
That's how the one in Strum got built.
And when you do check, like with Minnesota, check the locality because they only go so far.
This particular company is just named Minnesota Playground. but
Oh,
they're not
gotcha. Yeah.
Minnesota.
Right, but they only cover certain distances. There's different localities, just so different districts within that.
The Green Bay Packers even have a playground grant.
Okay.
I mean, there's a ton of grants for playgrounds. We just have to
Right.
look at.
So, usually these grants have a match, and I guess my point
Right.
with this number is, one, playground equipment is not cheap.
No.
And so we kind of have a place number in there. We talked about in the master plan that the need for marketing the park better, and how it's so hard to even know Petrick Park is there because of the one, you have a state right of way, and then you have a railroad, and it's so far off that an entrance sign that's more visible from the highway is really interesting, critical to marketing the park and getting people to know it's there. So sign costs, again, variable, but not as cheap. You can spend as much as you want on a sign. So we kind of have a placeholder in there for that. And then, of course, we have a rec pond construction. It should say, or it's probably better worded as saying a construction match for the recreation pond. So when you add all that up, that reserve fund is actually in the negative. And so, this is not a point that we have a reserve fund. It's not just sitting there. We have plans to use it. It just takes time to implement all this stuff and get it implemented. So this isn't money that's just sitting there. We have a plan of action in the master plan. We have priorities. We're working forward to do these things, and it just takes some time. And if we have less staff, it will take longer to implement.
Mike and I talked a little bit about this morning too, and calling it the Park Reserve Fund, I think, doesn't adequately describe what the intent of this is. It's to, sure, it's something we could tap in case of emergency, but I think more importantly and strategically what it is it's a capital projects plan.
Right. And that's what it should be called.
And up to this point, the way this has been, the way we've accumulated balances here is if we haven't spent our regular budget allocation. And I think going forward, and it's probably not going to happen this year, but, especially for the county board members that are here, I think what's really important to consider is that maybe starting next year as part of the park's budget, we do the budget, but we also do a specific allocation, I'm picking out a number, $25,000 a year, $50,000 a year, that we put into the park's capital fund every year, and then we go forward developing, a rolling 3-year plan of how we spend that budget. so that we're making those investments.
I think we should put this on the agenda for next month to rename this to our capital improvement budget item.
I actually was just gonna suggest that
I
actually.
know, we
as
are on
well.
the same wavelength today, and that's dangerous.
And, but you know
Because
what, you know
people
what I'm
want to
saying, you
get
know what I'm
their
saying,
hands on
right? I
this
mean,
money.
when the county board allocates money, for parks, we would expect that it would get spent. Now, there's maybe certain reasons that, we don't spend all of our money in a certain year, in a certain point, and so then that's why it's accumulated, and we've been able to do that and stuff. But I think that separating and saying we've got the budget, but then we also have a separate budget to capitalize that, that would be a good discussion to have down the road.
I would like to rename this.
I think,
So-
I think it is misleading, the term that's being used for that fund is
The way it's
misleading.
worded right now makes it a target. It's not a slush fund.
It's not in reserve, we've got plans, and they're valid, plans. So, yeah, I agree, we could put it on the agenda.
Change that, because we have certain elected officials that don't even like the studio, so they want to look at slashing a lot of things.
Well, I mean, I will sympathize and say that we have to slash some
do,
things.
yeah, somewhere we gotta-
So, but we have to be very strategic in what those things are.
Right. Okay.
I got a question on Petrick. What's the time frame for that? We have to use that, put something in that 5 acres?
Well, so it's by the end of next year.
End of '24.
Yeah.
And what's the
And-
requirements?
We have to have a plan for something.
It's not super specific.
It needs to be developed.
It needs to be developed, and that could mean development's underway.
What's
and
the definition of development?
There
If you put a
isn't.
playground equipment out there, is that considered?
Is that it?
development?
Yeah.
There isn't one. However, as I talked to Mike, I said, I want to have a conversation with the Shanks about
I think
that,
they'd be really
because
good,
I
because
haven't.
they're good people.
Up to this
Right.
point, I haven't been involved in that. Obviously, I have a new role, and I want to talk to them about, what we're thinking, what the realities of the situation is. See what flexibility we have.
I mean, we have to start this thinking process, because
Yeah.
it takes a while.
Yeah.
If you're just gonna, let's put some playground equipment out there to qualify and keep the land, you only have next year to do it.
Right,
And it's not,
right.
it takes time, you know how slow things are.
Right.
So
I-
we have to put that in our
Yep.
Right.
Right.
thinking caps and saying, okay,
Yep.
what do
And-
we need now? The pond may not go, but let's go with the.
And
Playground equipment.
one thing I
Right.
think that's really sends a strong message to the Shanks. I think one of the things they didn't want to necessarily donate the land and see nothing done with
Nothing
it. So
done with
that's
it.
why they
Yep,
had that
yep.
requirement in there. But just look at the upfront planning that this committee has committed to. We have a $60,000 contract that is going to help design the playground part, the rec pond, and find a location for the bridge across the river to connect to land that's inaccessible. That's a significant investment by the
Right.
county.
I'm kind of
And-
hopeful that actually dots the I and crosses
Yeah,
the
that
T
that
there.
shows a lot of commitment.
You can show them the numbers, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we have a story to tell, and I hope they're receptive, and
They
I think
will be.
I think Dave's right on
Just-
track.
I just want everybody to be on the same page.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
We
want us
are,
thinking
yes,
that's a
yes,
commitment,
yeah.
and they're saying, "No, we wanted to see
And-
something built.
And
mean,
I think you've got
that's-
a great point with that. It's so good to have a conversation with someone that donates
Yes.
to whatever,
Right.
So it's just a,
That's going to get scheduled
Good.
very
They're
shortly.
very nice, very,
Yeah.
very wonderful people, so.
Is there an update on the SRF contract since we've entered into that?
We're having so I was going to touch on this in my parks update.
okay.
I don't know if we're done with
Are
the
we done
reserve
with the
fund.
reserve fund?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay,
Okay.
back to you, Dave.
So parks update, we're having a kickoff meeting this afternoon, Mike and I are, with SRF to talk about it. The contract has been prepared. It was reviewed by court counsel. It was sent to SRF. SRF had a small change they wanted made, small in terms of number of words, in the indemnification section of the contract. I sent that back to Rick Niemeyer, and yes, Rick is still working on some contract
Rick
stuff.
is?
Yeah.
In the transition.
Yeah,
Really.
and so I'm just awaiting final word from
Okay,
Rick
cool.
as to whether we can accept that proposed change in the indemnification language. And as soon as that's done, then the contract will be executed. But we're not holding up on the kickoff meeting today. I think that's important to get going on that. There's some things that SRF wants to do yet this fall.
It was nice to work. He has another job to help us out. So
Right.
Did the new person start?
Let me see. So that was the last thing on my list. We're already, I know somebody made comment about pretty soon it'll be snowmobile time. Well, it already is. Amy and I attended the first snowmobile club meeting of the season back in September. Just good introductory meeting to get to know who the folks are. We worked on subtly setting some expectations with them that, may or may not have existed in the past about communication and record keeping and how they report stuff. Because ultimately, we're the ones that are responsible for the information that goes to DNR to get the money that then we send to them. Most of it we send to them. We keep a little tiny portion. Amy's actually going to be attending a training seminar tomorrow in Wausau on, I think it's primarily on the grant stuff, right?
Yes, it is.
Yep. I had planned on going, or no, it's not tomorrow, it's Thursday. I had planned on going, but have other, competing things. I can't go to everything. So Amy will be,
rock it.
Amy will be very
You'll
capable.
do great.
She'll be a very capable representative, better than I would.
Have they brought up anything about updating any equipment? Because it's been a few years since they upgraded.
It did not come up at the September meeting. It wouldn't surprise me if it, came up at some point.
Like, what do we need?
Well, every so often they upgrade, say a
Grooming
tractor,
equipment.
for instance.
Okay.
After so many hours, they can get a pretty good deal on one instead of getting stuck with a bunch of high maintenance
Is
on
the
it.
groomer still, because it wasn't that long ago, we helped the clubs buy the new groomer.
You talking the groomer for grooming the trails or the power plant behind it?
I think it's for the trip. Remember when we had all that
No, what I'm
snow?
getting at is the groomer that does the grooming or the tractor that pulls it.
Well,
Because
are they both still working in?
I'm sure they're working, but I mean, it's just that every 5 to 7 years, they're upgrading because
Okay.
I mean, they'll get since it's a piece of equipment that isn't in the dirt all the time, they can get a pretty good bang for your buck of trading it in.
Okay, because I remember the groomer part, we had to they got a new one and the county helped them with a loan because the old groomer couldn't handle the deep snow we had that one,
Right.
three
Yeah,
or
it was
4
a
years.
pistol
Jeannie?
bully that they got.
What? Yes?
Jeannie, this is Jean. I have to go. Can you tell me, are we meeting for November on 7th? That's the first Tuesday. That's election day. Are we meeting that day or not?
Yep, we should.
There's no election.
There's
If
no,
something, well, I'll just watch my email.
I don't know if spring is the big election
There's
time.
no elections this year. in
There's nothing in
November.
November?
Okay.
Spring
Thanks,
is,
guys. Take care. I gotta go. Bye.
bye.
Might
Okay.
be some primaries, but the big one's not till April.
So, otherwise on snowmobile, there was another thought I was going to share. I know one of in terms of expectations and stuff like that, one of the things we really talked about was, communicating and I'll have to flesh this out a little bit more, because one of the things that Reed struggled with last year was getting, go, no go from different clubs about whether or not their trails were open after a snowfall and that kind of thing. And, I want to pin that system down more. And then the other thing we talked about, and, this is information I need from the clubs really, because they know best, is at their particular trailheads or trail locations, what's the best recommendation on where people can park a trailer, offload their snowmobiles, and then because those are the kind of questions I got a lot last year, just answering the phone, because my phone number, my actual desk phone, which goes to my cell phone, is out there on everywhere on the web. And so I get calls day and night, weekends and stuff, people asking that kind of question. And so they said that they would, think about that and provide some information. So that's snowmobile stuff. There's a group from Independence High School that's coming out this Friday morning to the park. 15, 20 kids to just do a little bit of give back to the community and help out. So the marks are gonna come up with, I didn't want to say community service. But
Information time.
yeah, but it's, the marks are gonna come up with some projects that they can work on. So they're gonna be out there for about 2.5 hours. Already talked about the SRF and then, I've just been talking some with the marks about, doing some fall projects now that the grass wasn't growing for a while and now it's, with the rain, it's growing again, but
It's like spring. I mowed
there's
the
still,
lawn
yeah,
the other day. It's
there's some
unreal.
other projects that I want to have them get to yet this fall, and then I got to touch base with Amy here soon about just where we are with the budget for the marks for their time, because this is the first year that we're going to be open year round, and so we're still going to do the normal water shutdown and all that stuff at the park, but we're also going to have to think about some stuff going forward later into the fall, into the winter. One thing I will mention that I'm very pleased with, I think we have six people out there right now that are out there on the fall hunting special. Which is, good from right after Labor Day through the final Sunday of gun deer hunting season. And we've been continuing to get, 3 and 4 day reservations here and there. Obviously, what I want to see for next year is just, increases in camping utilization across the board year round. And, I'm working on a plan to see how we can accomplish that with, more consistent marketing as part of a plan. So.
Since my travels on the weekends, I usually go through the park. There's been average between 10 and 15 campers a weekend since Labor Day. So
Yeah,
that's pretty decent.
Does Perot send overflow to our park? Because I know when I was out west, the many parks in the national park campgrounds were full,
Yep.
and they sent us to these wonderful parks in the national forest.
I wouldn't have any way of knowing if
Yeah, it'd be
anybody
nice to
is, but,
We're full, but hey, go to Petrick Park, just
Right.
up the road.
yep.
Have you checked into that furnace?
Yes, that was my question.
It's on my list. Reed left me a bunch of stuff, and that's one of the
Otherwise,
things.
we can handle it. I know a couple guys that would probably get it done. Instead of trenching, put a tank in there.
Let's
That way
talk.
we got-
Let's talk sometime in the next week, Bob,
Okay.
and we'll go from there.
And Bob, the furnace for what?
The claw shelter.
Okay,
Well-
then,
Spring already.
Didn't
Yeah,
we change
well-
the furnace to the?
Yeah, well, so that's the thing.
Yeah.
Reed left me information about the furnace, and then Reed left me information about what I think you want to talk about, Doreen, right, with the radiant heat and the
Yes.
fans and stuff. So that's, yes, no?
well, I wasn't gonna talk about it, but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I think we need to get our resources together, because our family was gonna donate money towards fans for the claw shelter, was gonna kind of tie into the radiant heat, but if
Right.
there's gonna be a furnace, maybe we need to look at that, because we're planning on closing our parents' estate, so we need to know how much needs to be set aside for that donation, so. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to just talk about that at some point, not here, but at some point to see what's going on with the furnace, so we're not doubling up on.
Yeah, because I remember that from
Costs.
the
It-
last meeting in September.
Yeah,
we talked
my understanding,
about that.
it's an either or. It would
Right.
be a furnace or this system.
A heating source.
A heating source, correct. So I think that's some of the delay. I think that was some of the delay, was that I think Reed was going down the path of a furnace initially, but then this idea came up, and this idea seems like a really good idea, and I have a I have an estimate from Slobby that I have to review and take a look at. But do we
Thank
need, let me just ask a question. If we, if that estimate from Slobby looks good and, we've got money, that's already committed to doing that, can we just do it and without coming back to the committee?
The committee already
Everybody good with that? Okay.
The committee already approved,
A furnace, but this is a heating source that everybody's good with that?
Well, I
Okay.
think we should listen to the Malashevsky family too. I mean, if they're willing to make a donation
Right.
in that, and I'm sure they're got all their ducks in a row, what it looked like in there and stuff, there's always new ideas out there, new
Right.
updates. So I said we should listen to the family
Right.
themselves to see what they've got out there.
The proposal that was approved by committee last year, I believe, was up to $4,000 for a heating system.
Correct.
So that's what I remember. I'm going off memory now. But I think the committee's comfortable going with some kind of heating source.
Either or, I think we felt whatever.
Just as long as it's a quote source, we're not too particular what it is.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be careful what it comes in at. If it comes in at $9,000, you only approve $4,000, that's not gonna look good.
Yeah, it wasn't that much.
No.
But
Doreen,
we'll
you can
review.
always sit at the table with us.
That's fine. I just wanted to state that, last month's monies were already given, which I think would be in that donation
Yes.
reserve for
Yeah.
capital funds. So that would be set aside towards that, and then whatever else. But we as a family was looking at the fans, but
Yeah.
didn't want to put in the electricity and everything
We-
if it had to be redone for a
We-
heating source or whatever.
Please keep in mind, we have, part of that donation money was from the Waldera family donation, specifically for the Claw Shelter. So we have money coming out of that donation that we can apply to that as well. So between the two donations, we'll have money to cover the cost for that.
I'll review the estimate, but given the discussion today, I don't see any reason why we can't just move forward and just get it done. And hopefully Bob and the rest of the committee, we can report, in November that it's either done or it's scheduled. And, yeah.
Be good.
Any urgency in getting it done?
I'd like to thank the Waldera family and the Malashevsky family for their
Right.
donations for this project.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's very nice of them to do that. And I hope more families would follow suit. It would be a nice
Absolutely. Is there any urgency in getting a heating source in there before winter for any reason?
This has been in the works for 3 years, and we've had 4-H kids that are looking to have meetings like sometime in the wintertime or early fall or late fall, early spring in that, where they can go in and it's nothing to camp out, but I mean, they'd like to hold their meetings, and it is a 4-H park.
Sure, absolutely. I just wasn't sure if there was like urgency to have heat to avoid freezing pipes or any of those
No.
types of
It's
scenarios.
just
but-
comfort.
Yeah, we shut off all the water and winterize.
But ideally then, I mean, if we've been working on this for as long as we have been, it would be nice to kind of close that chapter.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, okay.
All right, it's in your hands. One of the 1,000 things today we've tossed your way. Get your catcher's mitt on. Okay, anything else? What's the last agenda item? Oh, future agenda items. Pfft, we've got those all, you've got that covered. Okay, all right, and our next meeting, I was just looking this up, will be November 7th. Oh, November 7th, we already know that. 8:30. Thanks, everybody. The meeting is adjourned at 10:04.